I served with heroes in Afghanistan. I never thought I would see one die on the streets of DC. I fought alongside interpreters like Nasrat, and saw their selfless devotion to freedom. Imagine risking everything to help American forces defend your nation from lawless violence before managing to escape to the freest nation in the world, only to be gunned down in the lawless and violent streets of that nation's capital. This is the tragic story of Nasratullah Ahmad Yar, the 31-year-old Afghan Lyft driver and former interpreter for the United States military in Afghanistan, who was recently murdered in Washington, D.C. This is just another anecdote which serves as a disgraceful reflection on the lawless state of America and our divergence from the principles which made this nation one to which people flee for refuge and prosperity. As a Force Recon Marine and DoD contractor on a JSOC task force, I did 8 deployments to Afghanistan and fought Taliban violence alongside interpreters like Nasrat. I saw their selfless devotion to freedom and safety, and their unparalleled personal sacrifices. Because of these experiences, I have a unique perspective on how much Nasrat sacrificed. I'm reminded of a time when Aziz, my dear friend and an ally interpreter just like Nasrat, risked everything to defend his own nation, and protected me as I did him. Tasked with building an operation to eliminate a high-value target, Aziz and I found ourselves being pursued out of a small town by more than 24 heavily armed Taliban fighters in Hilux trucks. As we reached a wide open field, we realized our only option was to turn and fight as we fled. Aziz and I took turns laying down cover fire as the other escaped further, bounding away from the enemy fighters and their trucks that were hindered by mud. But then Aziz saw something I didn't. A man with an RPG ready to launch directly at me as I was laying down suppressive fire. Rather than taking his turn running, Aziz turned back to take out the man before he was able to launch that RPG, risking his life to save my own as we both risked everything for his nation and mine. Just as Nasrat did. And after all that, Aziz and so many others were abandoned by their American allies, or at least our commander-in-chief, during the devastating surrender of Afghanistan to the Taliban and our global enemies. To fill the devastating gaps in the withdrawal, I assembled an elite team to rescue Aziz and so many others from being abandoned to the Taliban. This endeavor ultimately led to the rescue of more than 17,000 Americans, vulnerable civilians, and Afghan allies who were being left behind for Taliban slaughter. Allies just like Aziz and Nasrat, both of whom worked alongside American Special Forces teams for years before escaping to America in the wake of the Taliban takeover. In recent years, I have continued to support special immigration visa holders like Aziz and Nasrat through my Mighty Oaks Foundation, which offers a program to help our allies continue the fight off the battlefield as they integrate into American life. Once again, my team is filling the gaps left by America's government in supporting the allies who sacrificed so much to support American troops. After sacrificing to protect Afghanistan from lawlessness and violence, Nasrat surely breathed a sigh of relief when he found himself safe in America. How tragic that he would then be shot in the streets of our own nation's capital, which has largely been overtaken by the very lawlessness and violence which Nasrat worked to eradicate in his own country, and from which he thought he had escaped. Gun violence is considered all too common in D.C., with homicides up by 20% and violent crime up 30% this year. After 5 years of steady increase, carjackings this year are also up almost 50%, which certainly endangered the life of Nasrat, who worked as a Lyft driver to support his wife and 4 children as they began their new life in the land of the free. In fact, a recent study found that certain areas of our nation's big cities are more deadly than both the Iraq and Afghanistan war zones.